Welcome to this explainer. We spend so much time obsessing over the latest tech or grinding over test scores, but today we're diving into the silent architecture that actually holds our society together. We're talking about moral education.
Have you ever wondered what really defines a person's character when absolutely no one is watching? Just think about the modern student for a second. They are constantly bombarded by social media, not to mention some pretty intense peer pressure. And honestly, without a strong internal guide, even the sharpest intellect can easily lose its way out there.
We are always measuring things, right? Grades, test scores, you name it. But a person's true character is ultimately defined by their internal values. Education without those values, it's fundamentally incomplete. Sure, a student might totally excel academically, but without compassion or integrity, their ability to meaningfully contribute to the world is going to remain severely limited.
So here's our journey for today's explainer. First, the missing piece, then the inner compass, followed by the immediate circle, the global impact, and finally, putting values into practice.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the missing piece.
Unlike standard cognitive development, which, let's face it, is mostly about memorizing facts and cramming formulas, moral education focuses explicitly on the emotional and social growth of kids. It helps them navigate life's messy complexities. It's not just crossing our fingers and hoping kids magically figure out how to be good people. It's about actively teaching ethical muscle memory. That way, they just naturally make choices based on fairness and responsibility.
Think of these 5 pillars as the true north for a student's moral compass, guiding them safely past modern challenges. Honesty builds trust. Empathy allows them to really connect with how others are feeling. Respect values individuality. Responsibility makes them accountable, and compassion connects them to society as a whole. These aren't just nice, fluffy words. They are absolutely vital life skills.
Moving on to Section 2, the inner compass, and how it leads to personal success.
Before a student can positively impact society, they really have to master themselves first. Let's take a look at how this moral foundation builds the internal character needed to face life's challenges with confidence. Imagine a real-world playground dilemma. Instead of just lashing out when frustrated, a student trained in moral education runs this kind of internal algorithm. First, they pause to reflect. Second, they view the situation through empathy. And third, they act with integrity. It's literally an internal algorithm for healthy living, and it drastically reduces those impulsive, negative behaviors we see so often.
And all of this internal processing, it massively boosts their self-confidence and emotional intelligence. It acts like a sturdy shield against confusion and anxiety. When a student actually understands their own emotions, they build incredible resilience. They recognize their strengths, they work on their weaknesses, and they develop a really positive self-image, one that is completely independent of whatever they got on their latest math test.
All right, Section 3, the immediate circle, focusing on interpersonal harmony.
Here's the thing. An academics-only approach leaves kids totally unequipped for social friction. Without moral guidance, everyday conflict just defaults to aggression, and peer pressure almost always wins. But if you inject moral education into the mix, that exact same friction suddenly becomes a powerful lesson in communication, compromise, empathy, and integrity. It's a real game changer. Empathy is essentially the bridge that connects a child's internal moral compass directly to the external world. It builds much healthier friendships and a noticeably safer environment. When empathy is actively present, it directly decreases bullying and discrimination. It ensures that every single child feels safe and valued. And let's be real, that creates the kind of inclusive environment where actual learning can take place. Now let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, the global impact and social cohesion. Individual values scale up in a massive way. A community truly thrives when its people act with empathy and respect. It bridges diverse groups, reduces prejudice, and really drives collective well-being. Trust naturally grows when accountability guides behavior, and that is exactly what builds true social cohesion. This is the point where moral education moves from just being a cool personal asset to an absolute global necessity. It fosters responsible citizens who deeply value fairness, accountability, and justice. Look, a harmonious society isn't just created by accident. It's built by engaged citizens who have been taught, right from childhood, that their actions have real consequences and that they actually have a duty to the world around them.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, putting values into practice.
Moral education isn't just some extra class you squeeze in between science and history. It has to be woven into daily life.
How do we do that? Well, by having students mediate their own peer disputes, or maybe discussing a character's ethical dilemmas in literature. We model these values naturally through collaborative learning and community outreach. It's a daily duty that schools and homes really have to share.
Because at the end of the day, knowledge without values leads to a serious imbalance. That's why a holistic approach is the only true pathway to raising capable, emotionally balanced adults. Academic achievement alone simply does not define success. True success is more like an alchemy, a mix of intellect, a solid ethical foundation, and a deep sense of broader purpose.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. If we don't actively shape the moral compass of the next generation, who or what will? Think about that for a second. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Start building that compass today.